If you are on Ozempic, Mounjaro, Semaglutide or Tirzepatide right now, stop and watch this first. Because these are the things that millions of people on these medications are doing every single day that are making them feel absolutely awful. And they have no idea why. They think it's just the medication. They think it's just how it is. And they either push through feeling terrible or they quit. And they lose all the progress they have made. The problem isn't always the medication. Sometimes it's what's being combined with it. I'm talking about everyday things. Things in your kitchen, things in your medication cabinet, things your other doctor prescribed you that nobody thought to flag. And some of them are not just uncomfortable, some of them are genuinely dangerous. I'm going to give you all the 10 interactions, and more importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because when you understand what's happening inside your body, you stop making decisions that work against you. So let's go. Quick disclaimer before we start. This is clinical education. It is not a replacement for your individual provider. Your situation may be different. Everything I'm about to tell you makes more sense once you understand what these medications are actually doing in your body. GLP stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. It's a hormone your gut naturally releases after you eat. What it does? It tells your pancreas to release insulin. It tells your brain you are full, and it dramatically slows down how fast your stomach empties food into your intestine. The last one, the gastric emptying, is the big one for almost everything we are going to talk about today. Because when you slow gastric emptying, you change how your entire digestive system processes everything that goes into your body. Food, liquid, and medication. Drugs like semaglutide, that's Ozempic and Wegovy, works purely on GLP-1 receptors. Tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro and Zepbound, hits both GLP-1 and GIP receptors, which is why it tends to be even more potent. These are powerful medications with powerful mechanism, and that power is exactly why certain combination can go sideways fast. Number 1, alcohol. And I'm going to be real with you. This is the one I have the most conversation about. If you're on Ozempic and you still drink, you need to hear this. Here is what happens. GLP-1s are slowing your gastric emptying. So when you drink, the alcohol sits in your stomach longer before it gets absorbed. That means the same 2 drinks that used to hit you like 2 drinks, now they are hitting you like 3 or 4. Your alcohol tolerance effectively drops, sometimes significantly, and most people don't realize it until they are already in trouble. But it goes beyond just feeling drunker. Alcohol tells your liver to stop making glucose. GLP-1s are stimulating insulin release. Stack these 2 mechanisms together, especially if you're on insulin or a sulfonylurea, and you have a real serious risk of hypoglycemia. Blood sugar crashing at the level that isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. And then there is a pancreas issue. Both alcohol and GLP-1s carries a known association with pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. They're already in the risk profile of this medication. Alcohol adds to that risk independently. Together, you are not doing your pancreas any favor. My clinical advice, if you are going to drink, keep it genuinely moderate. Never drink on an empty stomach. And in an early months of treatment, when your dose is escalating and your body is adjusting, I would seriously consider cutting it out entirely. Number 2, insulin and sulfonylureas. And this one I see go wrong constantly in a clinical practice. Your doctor puts you on Ozempic but didn't change your other diabetic meds? Watch this. A lot of people starting a GLP-1 are already managing type 2 diabetes. They are already on insulin, or they are on sulfonylurea like glipizide or glimepiride. And when the GLP-1 gets added, nobody adjusts the existing doses. That's where the problem starts. GLP-1s and insulin together, that's usually a conversation about reducing the insulin. And honestly, that's a great conversation. Watching patient needs less and less insulin over time is one of the most satisfying thing in medicine. But it has to be done intentionally and monitored. Now, sulfonylureas are trickier ones. Here's why. Sulfonylurea forces your pancreas to release insulin on a timer, regardless of what your blood sugar is doing in that moment. Your blood sugar could already be at a perfectly healthy level. Your sulfonylurea doesn't care. It releases anyway. Now add a GLP-1 that's also working on insulin secretion and glucose regulation. And you have got a recipe for a blood sugar crash that comes out of nowhere. Sweating, shaking, confusion, in severe cases, passing out. The fix is not complicated, but it requires awareness and communication with your provider. Many of our patients end up reducing or stopping their sulfonylurea entirely once they are stable on GLP-1. That's the goal. Number 3, heavy, greasy, high-fat meal. And I know this sounds obvious, but let me give you the actual mechanism so you understand why it hits so hard. You ate greasy food on Ozempic and felt like you were dying? Here is exactly why. GLP-1 slows gastric emptying. That's one mechanism slowing your digestion. High-fat meals triggers the release of a hormone called CCK, cholecystokinin, which also slows gastric emptying. So now you have two independent mechanisms both slamming the brakes on your digestion at the same time. Food sits in your stomach for dramatically longer than it should. The result is intense nausea, bloating, reflux, and sometimes vomiting, especially in early months when your body is still adjusting and your doses are being escalated. I have heard more stories of people saying, I ate a burger and fries and I thought I was dying, then I can count. And they are not exaggerating. That combination on GLP-1 is genuinely miserable. The long-term concern is gallstone. Rapid change in the fat metabolism and bile flow while on GLP-1 carries an elevated risk of gallstone formation, and that risk is higher in people eating high-fat diets. We are seeing this in the clinical data and in practice. Here's the framework that works. Lean protein at the center of your plate, complex carbohydrates, healthy fats in reasonable amount. Not because I'm trying to make your life boring, because that framework actually works with the medication instead of against it. Number 4, artificial sweeteners and sugar-free products. And this is the one that catches people completely off guard. Are you drinking diet soda on Ozempic? You might be making your symptoms so much worse. You think you are making a healthy swap. Diet soda instead of regular, sugar-free candy, protein bars loaded with sugar alcohol like erythritol, sorbitol or xylitol. Sounds like a reasonable choice, but on a GLP-1, this can absolutely backfire. Here is the issue. Sugar alcohol are poorly absorbed in the gut. In a normal digestive system, they move through relatively quickly, and what isn't absorbed gets fermented by gut bacteria, causing some gas and bloating. Sure, but moving through fast enough that it's manageable or sometimes not even noticeable. Now, slow everything down with GLP-1. This sugar alcohol sits in your gut fermentation for far longer. The result is significant bloating, cramping, and GI distress that people often blame on the medications, when it's actually being dramatically worsened by what they are eating and drinking. And separately, research is increasingly showing that the artificial sweeteners like sucralose or aspartame can negatively affect the gut microbiome, which matters on its own, but particularly matters when your gut is already adjusting to the medication that changes its motility. Here is what I recommend instead. Sparkling water with citrus, plain water, herbal teas, and read label on the protein bars. A lot of them are loaded with sugar alcohol. That details matter more now than it did before you started this medication. Number 5, certain common medications. And this one doesn't get nearly enough attention, even from providers. Are you on Ozempic and taking thyroid medication or birth control? You need to know this. Certain medications are extremely sensitive to how and when they're absorbed. We are talking about thyroid medication like Synthroid or levothyroxine. We are talking about digoxin for heart rhythm, Warfarin for blood clotting, oral contraceptives. This medication has very specific and narrow window for absorption, and that absorption depends on gastric emptying happening at the predictable rate. GLP-1s changes that rate. So suddenly a medication that used to be absorbed consistently, predictably at reliable level every morning is now being absorbed inconsistently. And that inconsistency shows up in your lab before you ever feel it. I have seen patients at our clinic whose thyroid levels started drifting after starting GLP-1s, TSH going down, free T going down. And the first assumption is that their thyroid got worse. But when we dig in, the thyroid is fine. The Synthroid absorption become unreliable because gastric emptying changed. Now this is manageable, but only if you know it's happening. The fix usually involves spacing out timing, taking sensitive medication at very consistent time relative to meal, and monitoring labs more frequently in early months of GLP-1 therapy so you can adjust the other medication as needed. If you're on any of these medications, tell your GLP-1 provider and make sure your labs are being followed. Make sure your GLP-1 provider understands these interactions. Number 6, medication that slows gut motility. Stacked on top of GLP-1s, that's already doing the same thing. Are you taking pain meds or allergy meds on Ozempic? Your gut might literally stop moving. I'm talking about opioid pain medication, anticholinergic drugs used for overactive bladder, COPD, some antihistamine, tricyclic antidepressant. All of this independently reduces gut motility. When you combine any of them with GLP-1, you are stacking mechanism, and in more severe cases, this can progress towards something that looks like gastroparesis, where food genuinely stops moving through your stomach the way it should. Severe nausea, vomiting, feeling full after eating almost nothing, poor absorption of nutrients. Now, this isn't a reason to panic. Most people won't experience it at that extreme level. But if you are on any of this medication, it has to factor into how your GLP-1 is dosed and how slowly it's titrated. Slow titration, careful monitoring, and a provider who knows what they are doing with a full picture of your medication list will help you overcome this hurdle. This is exactly why at our clinic we go through your complete medication list before starting. Not as a formality, but because this stuff genuinely matters. It not just helps to control the side effect, but also to get the outcome that we are looking for. Number 7, SSRIs. And given how many people are on these medications like Zoloft, Prozac, Lexapro, Effexor, this one has a huge overlap with GLP-1 population. Are you on Zoloft or Prozac and Ozempic? Here is what nobody tells you about your mood. The surface level issue is that both SSRIs and GLP-1s can independently reduce appetite and cause nausea. When you combine them, those effects compound. Some people handles that fine. Others feel completely unable to eat and experience nausea. That's much worse than either medication alone would cause. But here's the deeper issue that I really want you to pay attention to. GLP-1 receptors exist in the brain, not just in your gut and pancreas, in your brain. This medication influences dopamine and serotonin pathway. The effect reward circuits. That's actually part of why they help reduce food craving and alcohol urges. Mechanisms researchers are still actively studying. Now, when you're also on SSRI, that's working on the same system, serotonin reuptake, reward pathway, mood regulation, the combined effect on brain chemistry can be unpredictable for some people. I have seen patients develop emotional flatness, fatigue that's beyond what the medication would typically cause alone, and in some cases, worsening mood or depressive symptoms, even in people who were previously well controlled on their SSRI. This is not universal. Many people take both without any significant interaction. But if you start a GLP-1 and you notice your mood shifting, don't diminish it. Don't assume it's unrelated, and don't wait 6 months to bring it up. That's a conversation for your provider immediately. Number 8, caffeine. And I promise I'm not telling you to give up coffee. I'm just going to explain what's happening so you can make a smarter choice about timing. Your morning coffee might be why Ozempic is making you so nauseous. GLP-1s slows gastric emptying. Caffeine stimulates gastric acid production and raises cortisol, which affects how your stomach handles everything in it. When you drink coffee, especially strong coffee, on an empty stomach, while on GLP-1, you have got an acid sitting in a stomach that's emptying slowly, alongside whatever else you have consumed. The result that I hear most commonly, reflux, nausea, and what patients very memorably describe as sulfur burp. If you know, you know. If you don't, consider yourself fortunate and take a note. This is more pronounced in the first 4 to 8 weeks of treatment, and particularly when doses are being escalated. Your body is adjusting. Everything is more sensitive. Caffeine on an empty stomach is pouring fuel on a fire. So here is the practical fix. Eat something first, even something small. Don't make the coffee the first thing. And if you are drinking multiple cups, spread them out. Most people find that as they adjust over the first couple months, they tolerate caffeine just fine again. It's an early phase issue for most, not a permanent one. Number 9, diuretics. And this combination matters more than most people realize. Are you on a blood pressure medications and taking Ozempic? Here is why your electrolyte might be tanking. Diuretics like Lasix, hydrochlorothiazide, or spironolactone are prescribed to manage fluid retention, blood pressure, and heart health. A significant portion of your GLP-1 population is on one of these medications, and individually, they are both fine. Together, the dynamic requires attention. GLP-1s causes nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, particularly early in the treatment. And the 3 of those symptoms cause fluids and electrolyte loss. Now add a medication that is specially designed to remove fluid from your body. You are now losing fluid from 2 different mechanisms at the same time. The risk? Dehydration and electrolyte imbalances, particularly potassium, sodium, and magnesium. And when those goes off, you feel it. The symptoms are real. Muscle cramps, fatigue, heart rhythm irregularity, and in more severe cases, kidney stress. This doesn't mean you have to stop your diuretic. This means hydration becomes non-negotiable. And it means your labs needs to be checked more frequently, especially in the early months of GLP-1 therapy. I tell every single patient on diuretics, minimum half your body weight in ounces of water every day. Not a suggestion, a baseline. And come in for labs. Don't guess on this one. Number 10, and this is the one that genuinely concerns me the most right now, because I am seeing it more frequently as access to these compound peptides increases. Are you taking semaglutide and tirzepatide at the same time? Please watch this. I'm seeing people are combining semaglutide and tirzepatide at the same time. Sometimes because they are sourcing both online and think more is better. Sometimes because they switched medication and weren't told to stop the one before starting the other. Sometimes because they are chasing faster results. But here is the reality. This medication works on overlapping receptor symptoms. Semaglutide hits GLP-1 receptors. Tirzepatide hits both GLP-1 and GIP. These are interconnected pathways. Stacking them does not give you double the benefit. It does not work that way biologically. Now what stacking does do is multiply your side effect risk dramatically. Severe nausea, persistent vomiting, risk for progression towards gastroparesis. Hypoglycemia risk goes up significantly. pancreatitis risk increases, and your body has no ability to regulate this combined input the way it regulates a single properly dosed medication. If you want to switch from one to the other, there is a right way to do that. There's a transition protocol. It involves tapering one down as you introduce the other, done deliberately with monitoring. That's medicine. What I'm describing, adding the second one on top, is not optimization. It's taking risk. If this is something you've been doing or considering, please talk to your provider before you continue. Look, I want to be honest with you about something. None of this is meant to scare you off GLP-1s. I prescribe them. I believe in them. I watch people's lives changes on this medication every single day. The data on the metabolic health, cardiovascular outcome, blood pressure, liver health, it's compelling. These are important medications. But here is the thing about powerful tools. They require knowledge. They require awareness of how they interact with the rest of your life. And most people starting a GLP-1 are getting a prescription and not much else. The patients who do the best are the ones who understand what's happening in their body, who communicate with their provider, who doesn't guess on drug interaction, who gets their lab checked regularly, who doesn't try to hack the protocol by sourcing things themselves and stacking medication they don't fully understand. That's what the real GLP-1 care looks like. Most people on Ozempic are making these 10 mistakes and they don't even know it. Here is your quick reference to those 10 mistakes and combinations before you go. And please avoid those. Number 1, GLP-1 and alcohol. Tolerance drops, hypoglycemia risk goes up, and pancreatitis risk goes up. Number 2, GLP-1s with insulin and sulfonylureas without dose adjustment. Crash risk is real. Number 3, GLP-1s with heavy, high-fat meal. 2 mechanisms slowing digestion at once. Avoid it early on. Number 4, GLP-1s with artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols. Ferments longer, more GI misery. Number 5, GLP-1s with sensitive oral medication. Absorption timing shifts. Monitor your labs. Number 6, GLP-1s with other gut-slowing medications like opioids. Stacking motility suppressor is risky. Number 7, with SSRIs. Watch for compounded nausea and mood changes. Number 8, caffeine on an empty stomach while on GLP-1s, especially in the first couple months. Number 9, GLP-1s with diuretics without hydration and monitoring. Electrolyte risk is real. Number 10, taking GLP-1 medications. This is not a strategy, it's risk. Share this with someone who is on Ozempic or Mounjaro. I promise you, most people have never heard half of this. And that gap in the knowledge is exactly why so many people feel terrible on these medications and then they don't have to. If you want to learn more about how we manage GLP-1, schedule your visit at MyFitMed if you are local to Texas, or schedule it with your GLP-1 provider and discuss these things with them. I'll see you in the next one. Stay healthy, stay fit.